Welcome back. We're unpacking what has gone on with the Dr. Jordan Peterson College of Psychologists of Ontario case, which they seem to be forcing him to undergo media training. I mean, to me, that sounds like re-education. My father survived communism. I have a little bit of familiarity with that. But I want to get your take on this, Dr. Scott Masson. What to you is most egregious by what's going on here?
So the lack of following their own regulatory process while accusing him of falling afoul of the regulations of the bodies that are going to be disciplining him is the most obvious one and egregious one. But what struck me immediately, and I reached out to him at the time on this because it struck me, I said, so these individuals that are going to be giving you the social media training, have they got doctorates and professional qualifications in the area of social media that would guide them in being able to guide you in how to use social media? And even if they did, which they don't because no such degree exists, what would be the criteria that would determine whether tweets were appropriate, offensive, just, unjust, whatever? What are the criteria, objectively speaking, that they're going to use to suggest that you have acted incorrectly, and what they are going to guide them in correct guidance going forward? So for me, this was a show trial. Publicly, they decide to make an example of Dr. Peterson, and they continue to do that because I think they see that a lot is at stake here in their persecution of him, which is how I see this right now.
And they are right that there is a lot at stake. I'd argue that a lot is at stake when we discuss freedom of expression and how this is taking a hammer to that. Lisa, how does this kind of encroachment, or is it an encroachment, I guess, on freedom of expression? I'll let you start with that. And then if it is, how does this, what kind of standard does this set for other governing bodies?
Well, unfortunately, yes, it is an encroachment on freedom of expression. Really, as Bruce was suggesting, these colleges were set up to largely to self-regulate. So it's other professionals regulating with the power of the government behind them. The government sets up the process, but it's professionals governing other professionals. And it's supposed to ensure competence and ethical standards, particularly, with lawyers. You want to make sure that they're not getting into the trust fund and that sort of thing. So it does serve an important role. But lately, they have been wandering down this path of trying to curtail people's speech, and to some degree, it appears that they're taking the very, very broad view that this is somehow protecting the reputation of the profession and this sort of thing. But they're really stepping outside their mandate as it's indicated in the governing legislation. So yes, it is an encroachment on free speech, and certainly cases like this don't help. The fact that Dr. Peterson has challenged it, while he was certainly within his rights to do so, does unfortunately leave a very high-profile negative precedent out there as well, which these other colleges are going to look to and rely on, and already have. I've already been arguing cases where I've seen the Peterson decision in the college's submissions. So unfortunately, and the Supreme Court of Canada wasn't interested in clarifying this. We have an unfortunate problem in that the only way to judicially challenge the kind of findings that were, or the remedial order that was made here, is through something called judicial review. And there's a certain amount of deference that the courts give, a considerable amount of deference to these administrative bodies making these decisions. So even if they're wrong, they still get deference. Even if they've overstepped, they very often still get deference. And unfortunately, that's the regime that we're in. And we do need to have the Supreme Court of Canada and other higher courts weigh in on whether, when we're talking about charter rights, whether these bodies, which they're not lawyers, they're other medical professionals or psychologists and so on, what authority do they have to understand the implications of the charter, and why should they be given deference on a legal question?
We only have about 40 seconds left, but Bruce, I recall that you had to go toe-to-toe with, I think, your university when you were trying to get them to do certain things with DEI training and whatnot, policies. Are all these bodies sort of overstepping? Is this an overstepping into people's personal lives now?
Well, yes. And the thing about the Peterson case is that it's just an example. it is the highest profile example, but we can tell what is happening in all kinds of cases, some of which I know Lisa's been involved in, and she alluded to the fact that this is happening more broadly.
Right.
And the silver lining to the Peterson case is that he is high profile enough so that we can all see what's happening now.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to pause you there. We're going to pick it up with you in just a moment.